Welcome to the Winter Sports season premiere of This Week in Marymount Warriors Athletics here on ESP Media, powered by Siren Sports and MarymountSports.com. I'm Jason Griefer. We're excited to have Athletic Director Tom Nurl back with us. Tom, we were just talking before we started recording. It sounds like from where I'm sitting right now, things are rather interesting right now at Marymount. Would that be accurate?
Things are rather busy. I think that's pretty much true for anybody who sits in athletic director's chair these days. So just a lot of busy, a lot of getting along, trying to keep our athletes going, trying to keep everybody going. Yeah, it's a rough year in athletic directors.
We'll send you an aromatherapy care package.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Trying to help you out there. Let's get right into it. And now that the fall season's behind us, and now we're getting into the winter season, thankfully, at this point, have you and your staff found yourself getting a better handle on all the COVID protocols and how things are going right now? And how much overall would you say right now have things as the winter season been affected by what we have going on in the world?
Yeah, we had a lot going on at the beginning of the season, back right after Thanksgiving, with kids coming back from Thanksgiving break and relatives coming in from out of town. And I think every program went through that. Number of programs shut down. For the month of December, we had a week off there for athletics and kind of changed education here, going on a 50% mode, 50% in, 50% out. But I think everyone else has adjusted. If you follow your protocols and you're checking your athletes when they come in, yeah, and try and keep everyone separate, it works. It's difficult. It's time consuming. And I think people are tired of going through that. But you have to do it. And so you continue to do it, and you take the temperatures and you look for symptoms and you try to keep kids spread out. And so far, at least in our case, it's working. And we've missed 3 girls basketball games. The boys are even with where they're supposed to be, and I think our junior highs are close to being even. So, it's you have to stay after them, and it's working. So hopefully it works for a number of schools.
Have you been able to kind of now have a better idea of maybe when something may pop up as far as a postponement or cancellation? Not necessarily a positive test. We can't predict that, but have you been able to get a better sense of that, or are you still operating more on kind of a day-to-day basis?
It's day to day. Especially when you're dealing with other schools and you don't know who's coming in and out, and it's funny who catches this and who doesn't catch it. Some people have been very careful and have come down with it, and other people have thrown caution to the wind and not gotten it. So, just the way everyone who catches it, or whether they're showing symptoms, it's really hit or miss. And so, we had an opponent let us know on Friday at 1, they had an athlete test positive. They were quarantining. So between me and the head basketball coach, we started hitting the phone lines, trying to pick up another game for Saturday. You have officials, you have the facilities, you have everybody ready to go. So you really like to keep that schedule. And so it's taken a lot of hands to get the job done. A lot of people pulling on the same end of the rope, but we're getting there and we're accomplishing things. So that's just the way it has to be. We need a lot of people working together.
Let's start talking about some of your teams right now. Let's focus a little bit less on COVID. Everybody wants a break from that. I'm sure you could use a break from it, given how things are changing on a day-to-day basis. Needless to say, and once again, the aromatherapy care package is in the mail.
Absolutely.
Let's start on the hard. Let's talk about your boys basketball team, because they're off to a solid start right now. 7-3 overall. They're 2-1 in the CHL, and this is an interesting year in the CHL. Of course, Wyoming has been the dominant team in the league the last couple of years. A lot different this year. Of course, when you lose a talent like Evan Prater, things are going to change. And Wyoming's gotten off to a slow start. They're 2-3 on the year. They've yet to get into league play, but they still have Isaiah Walker. They're going to be right there. But you look at the way things are shaking out. Taylor's off to a 3-0 start in league play. They're 8-2 overall. And I'm looking at this league. Indian Hill's just about to get going. They just started their athletics programs a week ago. This feels like a pretty wide open league this year. Is that your sense in how the league is shaping up right now? And do you think it's there, the possibility is there for your team to be right there at year's end?
Yeah, it is. And there's just a lot going on. And with the team starting late, it's going to be more of a war of attrition. Who can keep your teams healthy? Who can stay after it? We were fortunate we missed a week. Taylor, I don't think has missed a week of the season yet. and they've gotten off to a good start. The other schools, as they're trying to make up games, are playing 3 games a week, and that Tuesday, Friday, Saturday grind gets to be tough about 2 weeks into it. And we have a couple like that as well. We think we have a pretty good team. We thought we were good last year. We think we're better this year. A lot of senior leadership, a lot of seniors. So yeah, it's open, and I think if our kids would believe that they're good enough to do this, they can do it. They just have that type of team. But like I said, it gets to be a grind, and legs are going to start getting tired here by the end of January. And so, yeah, it's going to be fun to watch as we come down the stretch.
Do you think it could play to your team's advantage, the fact that they don't have as many 3-game weeks as some of the other schools as we get towards the latter end of the conference season, that maybe your team can have the fresher legs as they go forward towards season's end?
Yeah, it's always good to have a day off. You hear baseball players say that all the time, that they get a day off when other teams are making up games or whatever the sport may be. So
Yeah.
just to get a little bit of a break, just to get a mental break from the game as well. Yeah, that's going to help us. And but like I said, Taylor has that advantage as well. So and they're coming here on Friday, and we did not play well there the first time. So that's going to be an interesting game. That's one that's circled on our calendars, and hopefully it's a good night to watch. But yeah, a lot of fun in the league this year. Just a lot of possibilities.
Over on the girls' side, as far as your team goes, kind of a similar story. 8-4, you get the big one over Batavia on Monday night. You're 3-1 in the league, so you're sitting right there in the thick of things right now. And a big week coming up this week, as scheduled at this point. You've got Wyoming. They're 3-0 in the league at this point. They've played very well, especially on the defensive end.
Yeah.
Teams have really struggled to score against them thus far. And then Indian Hill, we know what they do. They've been so good for the last number of years. They're just getting their season going. They got a conference win early, got beat pretty handily by Cincinnati Country Day on Monday, but nevertheless, they've won 21 straight in the league. So, everybody kind of looks at them as, if we're going to win, we got to go through Indian Hill. But again, they're going to be playing a lot of games in a short amount of time. So we're looking at this season, and I think back to a year ago, and Indian Hill wins the league, but your team's right there. Your team was closer than anybody else to challenging Indian Hill for the title. You went 12-2. Those 2 losses came to Indian Hill. So comparing last year to now, as far as what you're seeing on the court, where do you see this iteration of this basketball team compared to the team a year ago that went on to win 19 games?
Last year we had a lot of senior leadership. We were an experienced team. We are not the same team. Got a couple pieces back from last year: Erica Dewey, Kendall Spreen, and Asia Robertson, and the other young players are filling in and learning as we go. And that's going to be a challenge. We struggled out Wyoming the first time. They were big, they were physical, like you said, on the defense, and so we're going to have to answer that tomorrow night. And then with Indian Hill, having that month off, Monday against Country Day, that was their first game back. We're going to have to just keep after what we keep after. We played Taylor on Saturday and got shut out for the third quarter, had a big fourth quarter. So, good thing, good thing about young athletes, or sometimes they don't get rattled as much as the veterans do. Sometimes it's the other way around. But they're an athletic team. They're fun to watch. We're not very tall, but they can shoot. And on nights that they're hot, they can shoot the lights out. So big test tomorrow night with Wyoming, and then with Indian Hill coming up. I think we're going to understand where we are as we head into the second half of the league.
In thinking about that, and having such a younger team this year, not as veteran laden as you had a year ago, in a team that won 19 games, could it possibly be a benefit to your team that you've had that go through all these protocols with a young team that isn't used to a quote unquote normal season, when they can have a normal training camp, they can have a normal practice schedule, that this is kind of, they're not used to how that is. So what they're in now is all they're accustomed to, and then therefore they can adjust quicker. Do you see that?
No, not really. Although our teams have had a good amount of adversity, but once you get to practice, it's practice. You get your hour and a half, 2 hours, and it's practice. You're running your drills, you're doing your shooting. But we had a pipe break right outside our gym back in September, flooded our gym floor. So we've just started playing in our high school gym on January 2nd. We had a practice on there New Year's Day. that's the first we've been on the high school campus with our basketball team. So the girls are going to one elementary school and practicing. The boys are going to a different elementary school and practicing. The junior high teams are staying at the junior high. So it's just good having them on campus now, having them back home, practicing here on campus and playing their games. So, just dealing with that disruption and everything else, we're kind of getting back to some normalcy, even with everything else that's going around. So I think we're settling in pretty well.
And that's good, especially going into mid to late January when you really want to start forming who you are and forming
Yeah.
your identity as a team going forward, especially with this group being so young going forward. Let's move on and let's move into the pool and let's talk about the boys first. Swim and dive. This is, as far as experience goes, the antithesis of the girls basketball team. You have a lot of seniors
Hmm.
on this boys swim and dive team. 9 of them here for their final run. We saw the feature from on MariemontSports.com about Nathan Cox. He's going to the University of Denver to dive at the next level. We want to send our congratulations on to
Yeah.
him for getting that opportunity there. Looking at the way this league is shaping up and, the way this league has been the last number of years, Indian Hill, once again, they're the team to beat. They've won the last 4 league titles. So everybody's got to come up to them. With such a veteran-laden team and 9 guys going through this for the final time at Marymount, do you get the sense that maybe there's an added jolt of motivation, bit of extra pep in their step when they are in training and then when they get into the pool, they're on the diving board there to try to elevate themselves even more, knowing this is the final go around?
Our new coach Mac Lewis is he's a grad, he's an alum, he's a swimmer. Has done a great job pulling these teams together, and so they're in the pool. There's a good spirit amongst the teams. They've been swimming very well against very regular competition. One meet, sometimes 2 meets a week, just getting it in, and yeah, they're swimming very well. So we're looking for a couple of the guys, a couple of our relays to move ahead from where they were last year in the district and possibly get on to the state level. It's just so different this year. There's no parents in the stands. There's no fans in the stands. Everything has been a dual meet, no tri meets. So that part's different. You get in, you swim, you go home. But there is a good spirit amongst those guys, a good spirit de corps, if you will. And they're swimming well, and I think they're on a mission, and it'll be fun to watch as we get into sectionals and districts.
How close to a normal training set season and even meet season have they been able to have? A lot of people wonder, as far as swimming goes, you're in close contact, you're sharing the same water, not at the same time, but one swimmer out, another swimmer in the same lanes at times. How has that been for them?
It's swimming. They've gotten used to that over the summer. A lot of
Mhm.
these protocols came in with the outside pools. They keep their distance in the water. No one's swimming on top of each other. You're in different lanes. You're staying on different sides of the pool when we swim against other teams. So that part, there maybe is not as many swimmers in the pool,
Mhm.
but at the same time, our meets are different because you'll have Marymount in lane 1, 2, and 3, and the opponents in lane 4, 5, and 6. So we're keeping them separate that way instead of having maybe the 2 fast swimmers side by side where they
Yep.
can look over and compare where they are in the race. So it's a little bit different, but we're still having the meets on a regular basis. We're live streaming them. We're getting it out. So for that part, yeah, they're having pretty much a normal season.
Well, and the best way to social distance in the pool is just beat the pants off of whoever's next to you. The opponents are next to you. I mean, to me, that's a good way to social distance.
Get faster. Yeah.
Just yeah, just win each meet, just win each race by 5 or 10 seconds. I
That's
mean, and
right.
then
Yeah.
you're out of the pool before they touch the wall.
That's right.
Let's move on to the girls' side here, and we've talked with the boys' side and with girls basketball. Everybody's chasing Indian Hill. Well, girls swim and dive. You're the standard bearer
Yep.
in this. 7 straight league titles, 8 of the last 9. It goes on with how good this program has been over the years. And I'm they're off and running this year. And what I'm seeing as far as the leaderboards go, yeah, there's a lot of warriors littering all the different distances in the
Mhm.
CHL as far as the top times go. But the one thing I'm also looking at, what I see is a strong mix of upperclassmen and the youth. You look,
Yes.
you've got seniors like Abby Schieser, Grace Bowl, they're putting up low times. Then you've got youngsters, Rachel Bowl, Maggie Henkel, someone named Sophia Nurl. among a bunch of others that are in there, youngsters, freshmen, sophomores that are in there, and they're putting up low times as well. How has the camaraderie been amongst this team, that knowing that you have very talented, juniors and seniors? Jacqueline Young, I can't leave her out. She's been incredible on the season, and you see the youngsters following their lead.
You do. And, last year, so Kevin Manis, our coach, was here for 25 years. Last year he's gone. Henry Thoman comes and takes a team for a year. Mac Lewis is in there now. And even with that, there's been a great camaraderie amongst the swimmers. The upperclassmen leading the way for the underclassmen, just showing them the way and just making them feel part of the team. You don't always get that with a lot of programs, but with swimmers, they're all in the same kind of misery. They're all swimming the pool. They're all swimming the air. You're in there for an hour and a half, and you're swimming and doing dry land. They've done a really good job. And there's always a little bit of competition within the pool that they pull themselves up. They want to catch the next one. So they've done a really good job. And our girls, like you said, our girls program has been very strong over the years, between with a mix of our club swimmers and our school swimmers. So we'd like to see that continue. Unfortunately, this year for boys and girls, there is not a CHL championship. With the change in the schedule for the sectionals and the districts, with the sectionals starting a little bit earlier, that actually would have had to force our hand to push the league championships back to like the 20th of January. And our concern as a league is, we're at Powell Crosley Y. We've got 6 different teams there. We've got all these swimmers at one time. If someone pops positive with the COVID, and depending what the Board of Health's interpretation is, you could shut down all the top swimmers in Division II from one swim meet. And so with an abundance of caution, we've just decided to forego the league championships this year. We'll get ready for the sectionals. We'll keep our distance. There's just no reason to take that chance and have kids miss a state tournament.
So even with that, as I said, we're not going to crown a league champion this year. So you're still going to be the, 45-time defending champions, whatever it is, at this point. Even without that, everybody still knows that Marymount is this team is a team that you're going to have to bring your best if you're going to try and beat them. In going through the regular season and into sectionals. In the sectionals, the teams know that. They see how good your teams are. So with that being said now, and like you said, with the coaching changes that you've had the last number of years, you've had several different coaches in there the last few years. Where are these young ladies finding that extra gear each time out, knowing that the other team knows how good they are, and your team has that proverbial target on the back?
I think that's just one thing that comes in with swimming. You're not swimming against another swimmer. You're swimming against your time. You're swimming against the clock. And so their goal every time they go in the pool, every time they're in a meet, is to drop time. And if they're dropping, 5, 10, 3 seconds, whatever, that's their target. And then once they start, cutting time and start tapering for end of the season, they're going to drop even more. So I think swimmers is a different breed. Just kind of know they're like runners as well. They know they have to drop time. They're always competing against themselves. And we've got some pretty good motivated swimmers.
And they've been doing a really good job. As you said, we look at the CHLsports.com and look at the leaderboard. You have to sort of hunt and peck to find somebody not swimming for Marymount at the top of the leaderboard, and get in multiple distances, which is even more impressive.
Yeah, we've had a lot of meets where some other programs haven't had meets yet, because they've been shut down for December. So I'm sure we're going to see some familiar names from some other schools start popping up here in the next couple of weeks as they load up on their meets the next 3 weeks.
I'm going to have to respectfully disagree. Just Marymount 1 through 12 every time. It goes back to our conversations back in the fall where with the boys soccer team who went on to win a state championship.
Yeah.
By the way, you said you were going to settle for 10 on the first team all CHL. So. We'll just have everybody still at the top there. Let's move on. Let's move on to the bowling lanes. And this is an interesting one to think about as well. Normally with bowling, you normally would have fans there, really, cheering the teams on. And that plays a bigger factor than I think a lot of people realize in bowling at the high school level. But obviously, we can't do that. And and then it also depends on the season goes, depends on availability of lanes and the ability
Yeah.
for kids to train and practice and whatnot. So that factors in when we start talking about the bowling teams here. Let's start with the girls first. And not haven't gotten a lot of matches under their belt just yet. They are winless on the year, just 0-4. So again, a very limited schedule
Mhm.
thus far. You've got scheduled matches with Deer Park and Reading coming up. Had a lot of time off in between. There was 2 Taylor matches. They had about a month off in
Yeah.
between there before they got rolling again. What were you hearing from the coaches? Like what were the bowlers working on during that layoff? And how close do they feel like that work during that layoff is to manifesting itself in match play?
Yeah, we had exams in there, and then we had the Christmas break, and so the kids are getting a lot of practice on their own. But a lot of programs suspended, or a lot of programs dropping because of COVID protocols. So, like you said, we're starting to get back on the schedule with a number of these and get back. But just like anything else, it's different. In a normal season, you're switching lanes, you're back and forth. This year, you're on one lane, and the next match is on the next lane. So you really don't have as much time to work it out during a match. For the experience that we have, we also have a good amount of inexperience on the team.
Mhm.
So they need the matches and get that consistency, and it'll come. It'll come, but it's just probably going to take us another week or so just to get in that regular routine of getting in there and practicing.
In previous seasons here on the podcast, we've kind of talked about building that excitement for the program, getting the numbers out, and so you can build up and have depth amongst your roster. How's that excitement level right now for the team? Trying to build things up, not only in league competition, but now having to do it in a pandemic.
The Pied Piper, Jim Barr, our bowling coach, gets a lot of kids out there. They seem to enjoy bowling for him, and he gives a lot of kids the opportunity to do it. The boys team a little bit more, I guess, a little bit more aggressive on filling the roster and having people who can come in and improving.
Yeah,
Over the 3 years that we've had it, the girls, there's a lot of competition with other things that they do. We're pretty involved with. Our lacrosse players playing indoor lacrosse, as do our boys. Soccer players are playing, indoor soccer, or what they do in the off season. So the girls team hasn't grown as quickly as the boys, but we still have 27 kids in the program, and it's still coming up. And so that's still a learning program. But I think girls bowling as a whole in the co-ed schools is still developing here. But the boys are off and running. They've had some
Mhm.
outstanding matches early on. They've had a couple where we kind of scratched our heads and said, we're throwing, mid 200s yesterday. Now we're high 100s today, and that's just a consistency of not being in the lanes every day with a match, because you turn it up a little bit more in a match. You
Sure.
doing
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of the boys, they're 2-2 on the season thus far. Again, Deer Park and Reading coming up there, so a good chance there to try and work your way towards the top of the
Mhm.
standings. As Deer Park and Reading are really just kind of getting underway. Really is everybody.
Yeah,
But one youngster we're talking, I've been looking over and seeing that as far as consistency goes, is Sammy Henkel.
yeah,
In looking at his numbers, he's fifth in the CHL right now, early in the season, carrying a 191 average, with a high at 241. And I'm looking at his progression. His average is up 15 pins from a
yeah.
season ago. That's a pretty nice jump to go from one year to the next. And when you're seeing him go the way he goes right now, compared to years past, and in talking to the coaching staff, what's been the biggest difference from last year to this year to see such a precipitous jump?
He's a little taller. He went from sophomore year to junior, so he's stronger. And he's working his game. He's kind of figured that out as well. He had some strong bowlers in front of him last year that he could ride their coattails, and this year he's the guy. So he stepped up his game. He's in the lanes a little bit more, practicing bowling. But I also think that as your body changes, you get stronger.
Yeah.
The leverage works with a longer arm. I think that helps as well. But he's certainly stronger, and like you said, certainly has increased his game.
How has he taken on that new role of leader where, like you said, he could kind of sit behind and let some of the guys last year kind of lead the way, and he just comes along kind of quietly behind them. And like you said, now he's the number one and having to show the next crop, this is how we do it.
Yeah, he with that last bunch, they were the strong bowlers coming in, and now he's like right in the core of all of them. You get that core of junior bowlers,
Yeah.
And they have a good solid group together. So I don't think it's the rah stuff, but he goes out there and bowls his game, and it seems to work pretty well.
They lead by example. There's nothing
Yeah,
certainly wrong with that, especially when you're averaging 191 with a
yeah,
241 high. I mean, that's nothing to shake a stick at.
yeah.
That's for sure. Lastly, here before I let you go, kind of want to circle back to what we talked about at the beginning here with all of the protocols here, and the fact that we are having as close to a normal season as we could hope for at this point. Obviously, as we've talked about here, there's been a lot of shuffling around, things postponed, canceled, whatever the case may be, throughout all winter sports, and everybody's had that throughout the fall and now the winter sports season. I want to get your thoughts on and see in this. How is the community stuck with your athletics department and stuck with these kids through these times? Obviously, the COVID protocols took some time to getting used to, with fans
Mm-hmm.
not being able to be in attendance as much as they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
They're having to kind of watch from a distance there. How has that support been overall, and how much has that meant to the kids?
We had a tremendous fall between cross country, going to regionals in the state, and the boys football team going into the playoffs, and getting 4 extra games in. The boys soccer team winning the state championship. The girls soccer team, going on to the regional finals. There was a lot of excitement going into it. A lot of disappointment that we couldn't have more people with us,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of excitement going in. And I think that a lot of people in our community saw that, hey, they can make this work up here, and the kids are safe, and we're not spreading anything there. As we get into the fall, the one theme I keep hearing is, "Wow, I really like to come up and see a game,"
Yeah.
but we get that we can't. There's no middle on this COVID. Some people are still not at ease with it, and other people are probably too at ease with it.
Yeah.
But you come to a game, you're going to wear a mask, you're going to follow the guidelines, and I think they understand that we can do the sports and make it work. And we don't have wrestling here, and so the schools that do have wrestling kind of question about how can you make that work.
Yeah.
So we have to stay on top of our kids and make sure they follow the protocols so their neighbors and the people in the community see what they're doing. But the boys basketball team off to a 7-3 start. They've got Elder coming in here tonight. I don't know if Elder has ever been in our school for anything.
And they're good. They're good. They're 10-1 this year. So you've got a strong competition coming in.
Yeah, they are. We had Hughes in here on Saturday, who's very athletic and having a good season too. Probably a little bit different than what we would normally schedule.
Yeah.
So the kids are going to have their hands full, but I think our people are excited about it. The students want to get back in and see them. And I think that's the thing that hurts the most is you can't have that full house of students. We played Madera on Friday, and in a normal setting, we would have had our student section filled to the rafters. Their student section would have been filled to the rafters, and we would have had the parents in the middle and up top, and just not having that big crowd. Still having some people here, but you don't have the rocking and rolling. You don't have the bands. So we're making the best of the situation, and to the people that say it's not good enough, I just we're doing all we can to give them a season.
Yeah.
And to those people, I'd say, did you have an athlete in the spring last year? Because all those poor athletes last year that did not have an opportunity to have a spring season and just missed out on that. And I still feel bad for them, but
sure,
we're going to do all that we can. As athletic directors, we're going to do all that we can to make sure our kids have a season and have the best season they can have.
Well, and I think that's something that yourself and a lot of other and all athletic directors don't get enough credit for, is the fact that there's no playbook for this. We've never endured this. None of us were around during the Spanish flu of 1918. No one knows how to navigate a situation that we're in right now. And so I think that even more so is a credit to you, to your staff, and everybody at Marymount High School with what they've been able to accomplish and put together when you look back to August, and we didn't know if we were going to have sports at all. I know you and I talked about when we were wrapping up the fall sports season, you thought we would maybe get 3 weeks of fall sports in. That's it. And we got the entire fall sports season in. And obviously Marymount did a lot of really great things, and they're looking to continue that here into the winter as well. Tom, we certainly appreciate the time here, taking some of your time to talk to us here on the podcast once again. And we'll look forward to continue to do it throughout the winter season.
Great. Sounds good. Appreciate being back. It's good to be in the routine, and it's always good catching up with you. Appreciate all your efforts.
Absolutely. That is Marymount Athletic Director Tom Nurl joining us for the winter sports season premiere of this week in Marymount Warriors Sports here on MarymontSports.com and ESP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports.